The train station was alive, filled with rushing footsteps, rolling suitcases, and the sharp echo of announcements bouncing off tall glass walls. Sunlight poured through the ceiling windows, cutting across the floor like golden blades. People hurried toward their trains without ever looking up. But one man did not hurry. Vincenzo Rocco, the most feared mafia boss in the city, walked through the station with a calm, heavy stride. His dark suit blended into the crowd, but his presence did not. People instinctively moved aside, as if something about him warned them not to stare too long. He hated being out in the open. He hated crowds. And today, he hated the feeling crawling at the back of his neck. Something was wrong. For weeks, he felt a quiet storm growing inside his organization. Small signs, small cracks, whispers that stopped whenever he entered a room. Too many wrong things happening all at once. Too many eyes avoiding his. That was why he was here, traveling alone, without guards, without warning. He needed to disappear for a day. Think. Understand who was moving against him. But danger always finds its way to a man like him. The kiosk encounter. He stepped toward a small kiosk near platform 4. A young cashier stood behind the counter, a thin woman with tired eyes and shaky hands. Her name tag read Lena. He placed a bottle of water on the counter. Lena looked up at him and froze. Her hands trembled so slightly that no one else would have noticed. But Vincenzo did. He noticed everything. He paid in cash. Lena handed him his change. Most of the bills were crisp and new, but one stood out. A small, torn, wrinkled bill, folded, almost crumpled, like someone had hidden something inside it. The corner was ripped, the edges stained with something dark. Vincenzo raised an eyebrow. Lena didn't speak, but her throat moved as she swallowed nervously. Her eyes, wide, scared, pleading, met his for a single second. A second that did not feel like an accident. A second that said, "Read it. Now." Vincenzo's jaw tightened. Without a word, he stepped away from the counter, feeling the torn bill grow heavier in his hand. A warning hidden in paper. He stopped near a row of benches, leaned slightly to the side, and unfolded the bill with slow, controlled movements. It felt like peeling open a secret. Inside the torn crease, cramped handwriting flashed before his eyes, written fast, messy, like someone scribbling under pressure. 4 lines. 4 words that froze him. Bomb on train. Betrayal. Don't board. For the first time in years, Vincenzo's heartbeat stuttered. His eyes lifted sharply, scanning the open station around him. Everything seemed normal. Children laughed. A couple argued softly. A businesswoman rushed past, late for her train. But he felt it now. The danger. It had a pulse of its own. And somewhere in this station, someone was watching him. The handwriting. Who wrote it? Who knew he'd be here? How did this torn bill reach him? He looked back toward the kiosk. Lena was standing stiffly, pretending to arrange snacks on the shelf. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She wasn't lying. She wasn't acting. She was scared. Truly scared. The watchers. Just then, a flash of movement reflected in the kiosk's glass window. Vincenzo turned his head. 3 men in sharp suits walked into the station from the east entrance. Tall, clean-shaven, alert. Too alert. His men. No, not his men. His organization's men. Men he did not call. Men who should not have known he was traveling today. His eyelids lowered. So it begins. They scanned the crowd like wolves searching for a specific prey. One of them touched his earpiece. Vincenzo's chest tightened. This wasn't coincidence. Someone knew he was coming. Someone warned him not to board. And someone else sent hunters to make sure he did. The torn bill trembled in his fingers. Tension thickened. He slipped back toward the kiosk casually, pretending to browse magazines while keeping watch on the group. They spread out, each heading to a different platform, acting natural but too synchronized. Lena noticed him return. Her breath hitched. Vincenzo spoke quietly, without looking at her. "Who gave you the torn bill?" Lena didn't answer. She stared straight ahead, her jaw clenched. He repeated slowly, "Who?" Her eyes flicked sideways, toward a pillar near platform 3. Just a small glance, barely a half second. But it was enough. A man stood behind the pillar, pretending to check his phone, but stealing glances at them every few moments. A stranger? No, not a stranger. A familiar face. One of the organization's lower-ranking members. Someone harmless. Or so he always believed. Vincenzo's stomach twisted. Lena finally whispered, so softly only he could hear. They told me to give it to you. They said if I warned you. More than this, they'd kill my brother. Her voice cracked. Vincenzo's pulse thudded in his ears. This wasn't random. This wasn't a mistake. This was a setup with multiple moving pieces. One warning message. One threat. One carefully placed group of watchers. Someone planned this with precision. Someone very close to him. The decision. A loud announcement echoed overhead. Train 709 final boarding at platform 4. Doors closing shortly. That was his train. The bomb warning echoed in his mind. Don't board. His instinct screamed to trust the message. But he also knew criminals. He knew betrayal. Sometimes the warning was the trap. Sometimes fear was the weapon. If he didn't board, those men would corner him right here. If he did board, he might walk into an explosion. He was standing between two deaths. But Vincenzo Rocco had survived his entire life by taking the path his enemies least expected. He took a step toward the train. Lena's hand shot forward and grabbed his sleeve, just for a second. Please, she whispered, eyes wide with terror. Don't! Vincenzo gently pulled his sleeve free. His voice was low, steady. If I run from them now, they'll chase me forever. He turned toward the platform. But before he could take another step, mini cliffhanger ending, a shadow fell over him. One of the Mafia men, the tallest one, stood behind him, hands in his pockets, a cold smile on his face. Boss, he said calmly, it's time to board. Vincenzo didn't move. The man tilted his head. Don't worry, he added, voice smooth as poison. We'll make sure you get on safely. Vincenzo's jaw tightened. The torn bill felt like fire in his hand. He slowly raised his eyes and saw two more men closing in from the left. The doors of the train slid open with a soft hiss. Waiting, inviting, deadly. The tall man's smile lingered like a knife pressed lightly against skin, not cutting yet, but threatening to. The busy station around Vincenzo kept moving, unaware of the silent war happening between him and the men closing in around him. The doors of the train behind them hissed open. A warm gust of air drifted out, carrying the smell of metal, perfume, and something else. Danger. Vincenzo stood still. His mind, however, raced. These men, his men, were not here for loyalty. They weren't here to protect him. They were here to control him, to push him somewhere he didn't want to go. And the torn bill in his hand felt heavier than any weapon he'd ever held. Bomb on train. Betrayal. Don't board. He could almost feel the words burning through his palm. The tall man stepped a little closer, pretending to be polite. Boss, we already arranged everything. No need to worry. You'll be safe. Safe. A word criminals only used when they meant the opposite. Vincenzo breathed slowly, keeping his voice steady. I didn't call for an escort. The man's smile widened. We know. That's why we came. Another threat hidden behind respect. Moving toward the trap, Vincenzo walked slowly toward platform 4, not because they told him to, but because turning back now would cause a scene he couldn't control. Two men stayed behind him. One drifted to the right, another to the left. They formed a subtle box around him as they approached the train. To anyone watching, it looked perfectly normal. A powerful man being escorted by his security. But Vincenzo felt the walls closing in. His mind replayed the signs he'd ignored the past few weeks. His consigliere whispering behind closed doors. Sensitive information slipping into enemy hands. A meeting where his right-hand man didn't look him in the eye. A sudden shift of loyalty he couldn't identify. Someone inside his circle wasn't just betraying him. They were hunting him. As he walked, he slipped the torn bill into his pocket and quietly scanned the station. Faces, movements, shadows, eyes everywhere, he whispered under his breath. And for once he wasn't exaggerating. The cashier's silent plea. As they neared the train, Vincenzo's eyes locked, just for a moment, on the kiosk behind them. Lena stood frozen behind the counter. Her hands gripped the edge of the shelf so tightly her knuckles turned white. Her lips moved silently. He tried to read them. Don't go. It wasn't just fear. It wasn't just guilt. It was desperation. She knew something. Something bigger than the message on the torn bill. Vincenzo shifted his gaze back to the train, pretending not to notice her. The men around him were watching his every move. Any glance, any gesture, any sign of hesitation, they would catch it. His jaw tightened. He had survived too many battles to fall here, trapped between train doors like a helpless victim. But the problem wasn't just survival. It was betrayal. Betrayal hurts differently. It feels like cold fingers tightening around your heart. Closer to the boarded fate, he took one step up to the train's entrance. The tall man stood behind him. After you, boss. Vincenzo paused. Just a second. Just enough to think. If he boarded, he might be stepping into a bomb. If he didn't, these men might kill him on the spot. His instincts screamed both paths were deadly. So he chose neither. He pretended to adjust his sleeve, turning slightly. Get inside, he said to the man calmly. Check the cabin first. It was a test. A simple, silent test. If the man refused, the message on the bill was real. If he agreed easily, maybe it was just a scare tactic. But the man didn't hesitate. He only smiled and shook his head. Not necessary. Vincenzo felt a cold wave slide down his spine. That was all the answer he needed. A quiet escape attempt. He stepped back from the train. The men instantly tensed, trying to hide it. This wasn't part of their plan. Vincenzo spoke with a commanding voice, low but sharp. I need something from the kiosk. Wait here. The tall man's smile finally faded. That won't be possible, boss. A controlled pause. Vincenzo's eyes narrowed. And since when? He said quietly. Do my men tell me what is or isn't possible? The man didn't answer. He didn't need to. The silence itself was betrayal. Vincenzo turned sharply and walked toward the kiosk anyway. The men followed, but at a slight distance, not wanting to draw attention. They acted normal, casual, but their eyes stayed locked on him. To anyone watching, it looked like nothing was wrong. But to Vincenzo, every shadow felt like a gun pointed at his back. Face to face with fear, Lena jumped when he returned. You need to leave, she whispered urgently. Please. They're not just watching you. Who gave you the bill? He cut in. Her breath tightened. Her eyes filled with pain. A man came to my house, she said. Last night. He knew my name, my brother's school, everything. Vincenzo leaned closer. What did he look like? She opened her mouth, but stopped. Her eyes flicked upward. Behind Vincenzo. He didn't turn quickly, never show fear. He moved slowly, as if just stretching his neck. One of the men was now closer, pretending to look at drinks. Pretending, but staring straight at them through the corner of his eye. Vincenzo straightened. Say it, he whispered. Lena's voice was barely sound anymore. I can't. They said if I even look at the wrong person, my brother dies. Please understand, I didn't want to be part of this. For a moment, Vincenzo just looked at her. Not as a mafia boss, but as a man realizing that innocence around him was being used like puppets. He softened his tone. I understand. Lena's eyes filled with relief and horror at the same time. Then please, she begged, run. They're trying to. A shadow fell across the counter. The trap tightens. The tall man was back. Boss, he said, fixing his jacket. We're late. The train's about to leave. His voice was calm, too calm, as if everything was already decided, as if Vincenzo Rocco had no choice left. Vincenzo stared at him, his mind calculating. These men were coordinated, prepared, not improvising. This was planned, days in advance, maybe weeks. He glanced at the torn bill again inside his pocket. Not a warning from enemies. A warning from someone who still cared enough to take a risk. Someone who wanted him alive. And that person was inside his organization. But who? He let out a quiet breath. Fine, Vincenzo said, his voice flat. I'm coming. The tall man smiled again, satisfied. Vincenzo stepped away from the kiosk. But this time, as he walked, his brain raced with a new thought. If they wanted him dead, why warn him at all? Why the torn bill? Why the secret message? Unless someone in the shadows was playing two sides. Someone wanted him to survive just long enough to see the truth. The thought hit him like lightning. There wasn't just one betrayal. There were layers. Mini cliffhanger ending. As they approached the train again, the doors began to close automatically. The man nearest to them tapped his earpiece and said quietly, He's coming. Prepare the next step. Prepare. What? Vincenzo froze for half a second. The tall man gently pushed his shoulder. Board now, boss. Before he could respond, a loud beep echoed from somewhere inside the train. Sharp, sudden, metallic. Vincenzo's breath caught. That sound. It wasn't normal. It wasn't part of the train system. It was the sound of something activating. Something dangerous. His eyes shot toward the open doors. His muscles tensed. And in that moment, he realized. The sharp metallic beep echoed from inside the train like a pulse of danger. It was a short sound, barely half a second long, but it cut through the noisy station like a knife through silence. Vincenzo's blood ran cold. He didn't show it. He never showed fear. But inside, a shadow moved across his chest, a feeling he hadn't felt in years. A feeling that whispered, This is real. The tall man behind him placed a steady hand on his shoulder. Boss! After you. The pressure of that hand meant more than words. It meant, you don't have a choice. Passengers continued boarding. A mother tugged her toddler inside. A teenager adjusted his headphones. An older couple argued affectionately about which seat to take. No one else heard the beep. No one else felt the shift in the air. Only Vincenzo. He stepped forward, one foot onto the train, the other still grounded on the platform. A man split in two worlds, life outside, death inside. For a moment, he stood there, balanced on the edge of fate. Then the tall man pushed gently, and Vincenzo stepped inside. The doors slid shut behind him. A soft click, a prison ceiling. Inside the beast, warm air brushed his face. The train hummed gently, lights flickering for a second as if adjusting to a new passenger, a very dangerous one. Vincenzo walked down the aisle slowly, scanning everything. Every seat, every bag, every face. A child laughed. A woman wiped her glasses. A businessman typed aggressively on his laptop. Normal scenes, normal people. But that beep did not belong. His three escorts stayed near the doors, acting casual, but blocking the exit. Vincenzo could feel their eyes burning into his back. He kept moving. A man in a hoodie sat 2 rows down, tapping his foot nervously. Another man stared out the window, shoulders tense. A woman near the middle clutched her handbag too tightly. Anyone could be involved, or none of them. But the message in his pocket pulsed like a heartbeat. Bomb on train. Betrayal. Don't board. He touched the pocket gently. Too late, he muttered. A search without hope. He checked under seats subtly as he walked. Nothing unusual. No wires. No strange devices. No ticking. But he knew bombs. He had seen them used, built, and destroyed. The most dangerous ones were the ones you didn't see. His jaw clenched. What if the bomb was planted somewhere deeper? What if it wasn't a bag? What if it was built into the train itself? He needed more information. He needed time. But time was slipping away. The train jerked lightly. The doors locked. A final seal. And then, the train began to move. The walls closed in. Vincenzo felt the vibration under his feet as the train rolled out of the station. A low, steady rumble filled the cabin, blending with faint chatter and music leaking from headphones. He hated being trapped. He hated not knowing the enemy. and he hated that someone inside his own organization dared to challenge him like this. As the train picked up speed, he turned slightly and glanced back at the men guarding the doors. One of them was speaking quietly into his earpiece. Another pretended to check his watch. Their job was clear: make sure Vincenzo stayed on board. Make sure he didn't walk away from this moving coffin. He hid the tension in his shoulders and began walking toward the next car. Passengers didn't look at him, but they felt him. People always felt him. The air around him shifted. He carried a storm wherever he went. A familiar voice. His phone buzzed. He froze. Calls from blocked numbers almost always meant danger. But right now, everything was danger. He answered. A voice crackled through the speaker, distorted but recognizable. A voice he trusted. A voice that once called him family. Vincenzo, the voice said. Enjoy the ride. He gripped the phone tightly. Who is this? You already know. A short chuckle. By the time this train reaches the next station, you will be gone, and the Rocco Empire will finally belong to someone who deserves it. His jaw tightened painfully. Coward. Call me what you want, the voice said smoothly, but you won't be alive long enough to regret your mistakes. The call disconnected. Vincenzo stared at the dark screen, breathing slowly through rising anger. He knew that voice. Knew it too well, but he couldn't place it yet. It wasn't fear inside him. It was something far worse. Betrayal cut deeper than bullets. A stranger's panic. As the train rattled forward, a man in the seat beside him suddenly stood up, sweating heavily. He clutched his bag and moved toward the door, muttering, "No, no, no, not again, not today." His hands shook. His eyes darted everywhere. He looked like someone who knew something was about to happen. Vincenzo blocked his path casually. Going somewhere? The man almost choked in fear. I need to get off. I need to get off the train. There's no stop until the next station, Vincenzo said calmly. Sit. The man shook his head violently. They told me something might happen today. I didn't believe them. Please, let me. Vincenzo's eyes narrowed. Who told you? I don't know. People on the dark net, rumors, bomb threat, something big, something about a mafia war. Please let me go. The man tried to push past. Vincenzo grabbed his arm and squeezed, not painfully, but firmly enough to make a point. Sit down. The man collapsed back into his seat, trembling uncontrollably. So it wasn't just a small secret. Rumors were spreading, strangers were panicking, and someone was orchestrating this chaos with terrifying precision. A bag that doesn't belong. 4 seats ahead, a black duffel bag sat alone, not touching anyone, not claimed by anyone. Vincenzo frowned. He waited. 1 minute, 2 minutes. No one came for the bag. A child tried to sit near it, and his mother pulled him away quickly, whispering, "Don't go near that." Vincenzo's chest tightened. He walked slowly toward the bag. The closer he got, the colder the air felt. He crouched down, ready to unzip it. Boss! The tall man appeared behind him. Too fast. Too close. Vincenzo straightened. What? The man smiled calmly. That's just lost luggage. Don't concern yourself. Vincenzo stared into his eyes. The man didn't blink. Not once. That was the clearest confirmation yet. Something was wrong with this train. Something was wrong with these men. Something was happening behind the scenes. And Vincenzo wasn't just a target. He was a message. A sound that shouldn't exist. Suddenly, a second beep echoed through the car. Longer this time. Sharper. Passengers looked up nervously. The tall man stiffened. Vincenzo's pulse hammered once. Then again. Then. The floor beneath him vibrated strangely. A vibration he had felt before. A vibration he had prayed never to feel again. It was the vibration of a bomb's internal timer activating. His throat tightened. Whatever was on this train, it was alive now. Awake. Counting down. He looked at the tall man. The man wasn't smiling anymore. And that was the most terrifying sign of all. Mini cliffhanger ending. From the front of the train, a muffled thud echoed, like someone slamming a heavy door shut. Passengers gasped. A child began to cry. Vincenzo's eye snapped toward the front cabin. Someone was in there. Someone who wasn't supposed to be. The lights flickered. The train accelerated. Fast. Too fast. A voice came over the speakers. Not the conductor's voice. A different voice. Cold. Flat. Unfamiliar. Passengers. It said. Remain seated. Vincenzo's heart pounded. Someone had taken control of the train, and the bomb was somewhere very close. The train station looked deceptively calm from the outside, sunlight flooding the platforms, travelers dragging luggage, children laughing, vendors shouting prices of cold drinks. But inside Marco's chest, there was a storm no one could see. He moved with long, tense strides, ignoring the heat, ignoring the stares. His eyes scanned every corner, every shadow, every unfamiliar face. A bomb, a betrayal, someone on board waiting for him. Every step felt heavier. Liam walked beside him, his breath sharp. "Boss, we should alert security." "No." Marco cut him off instantly. "If the traitor is one of them, we lose control. And if the bomber sees panic, it triggers early." Liam swallowed, nodding, but his eyes showed fear. Marco felt it too, burning through him like fire. But he kept walking. They reached the platform. The loudspeaker crackled. "Train 47A departing in 8 minutes." 8 minutes. 8 minutes until a metal coffin full of innocent people sped straight into disaster. 8 minutes until his entire world could end. THE platform OF secrets. Marco paused at the edge of the platform, staring at the train. People were boarding casually, unaware that death might be hiding beneath their feet. His heart hammered. He remembered the torn bill again, the shaky handwriting, the desperation. Why me? Why warn me? Who knew? Who betrayed me? Liam touched his arm. "Boss, this train has 12 cars. If there's a bomb, that's hundreds of lives." Marco clenched his jaw. "Then we find it before the timer runs out." He stepped forward, but Liam grabbed him. "Marco, wait." Marco turned, annoyed. "We don't have time." Liam's voice dropped. "What if the bomber is watching you? What if exposing yourself is exactly what they want?" Marco hesitated, because Liam was right. Someone was watching. He could feel it, those invisible eyes again. But this time, they were closer, sharper, more deliberate. Marco slowly scanned the platform. A man holding a newspaper lowered it just a little too slowly. A woman typing on her phone without blinking. A janitor mopping the same tile for far too long. Marco breathed out. "They're everywhere." His voice wasn't angry. It was something else. A quiet despair creeping in. THE clock runs faster. The loudspeaker announced again. "Train 47A departing in 6 minutes." Marco's breathing tightened. He walked toward car 3 first. Calm steps, like any other passenger. No sudden moves. No panic. Inside, the air smelled of metal, perfume, and cheap coffee. Travelers found seats, arranged baggage, opened snacks. Marco scanned everything. Every bag. Every briefcase. Every unclaimed duffel. Nothing. He moved to car 4, then car 5. Still nothing. The pressure in his chest grew heavier, like hands squeezing his lungs. 5 minutes left. He reached car 6 and froze. A bag. Black. Heavy. No tag. Placed under a seat. No one around it. Liam whispered, "Boss, that might be." "Don't say it," Marco muttered. He approached slowly, each step echoing like thunder in his ears. He crouched, hand trembling slightly, and touched the bag. Hard, cold, rigid. Not clothes, not food, something designed to kill. His throat tightened. "We found it," he whispered. Liam stepped back, heart racing. "We need a bomb squad. We don't have time." Marco grabbed the bag, dragging it into the aisle. He unzipped it halfway. Inside, metal wires, a timer, a rectangular device wrapped in duct tape. Liam gasped. "Boss, that's real. That's..." Marco zipped it shut again. "We move it." "No!" But as he straightened up, A voice behind him said, "I wouldn't do that if I were you." Marco spun around. A man stood in the doorway of the train car. Tall, lean, wearing a conductor's vest, but his eyes were wrong. Too sharp, too calm. Marco stepped closer, fists clenched. "You!" The conductor smirked. "The bag stays, and so do you." Marco's jaw tightened. "You're the bomber." The man tilted his head. "Not exactly. I'm just the one making sure you get on board, boss." Liam hissed, "Marco, don't go near him." But Marco already understood. This man wasn't the bomber. He was the messenger. A warning clanged in Marco's skull. Someone set this trap. Someone who knew his routine. Someone inside his world. This was personal. The conductor stepped closer, whispering, "The one who betrayed you. They want you on this train when it blows." Marco's blood ran cold. "Who?" he demanded. The man smiled softly. "You'll know when the train starts moving." And then he jumped backward, slipping into the next car, disappearing before Marco could reach him. Liam shouted, "Boss, the timer!" Marco spun back to the bag. The zipper had opened slightly. Inside the bag, the timer blinked. Hours 4 minutes 59 seconds. Hours 4 minutes 58 seconds. Hours 4 minutes 57 seconds. 4 minutes. 4 minutes until destruction. 4 minutes to uncover the truth. 4 minutes to decide if he would live or die with this train. Marco's heart thundered, sweat forming at his temples. He grabbed the bag. "We take it off the train." Liam's breath caught. "We'll never make it through the crowd. We don't have a choice." Marco swung the bag over his shoulder and began running toward the exit. Passengers stared, confused. Some gasped at the sight of the exposed wires sticking out from the bag. Murmurs rose. "Is that it? Oh my God. Someone call security." Marco ignored everything. His only focus was the sunlight outside. The platform. Safety. Seconds slipped away. Hours 3 minutes 10 seconds. Hours 2 minutes 58 seconds. Hours 2 minutes 45 seconds. But as he reached the doorway, a shadow stepped into his path. A silhouette he recognized instantly. A voice he never expected to hear. And it spoke one word. "Marco." Marco froze, every muscle tightening. His throat dried. Liam stopped breathing behind him. Because standing there, blocking the exit, was the last person Marco ever thought he would see. The betrayal suddenly made sense. The warning. The trap. The bomb. Everything. Marco whispered, voice cracking. "You?" The figure stepped forward, eyes cold, expression unreadable. "Put the bag down, Marco. You're not leaving this train." The timer blinked behind Marco, ticking away. Hours 2 minutes 1 seconds. Hours 2 minutes. And Marco understood. The platform blurred. The world around Marco disappeared. All he could see was the betrayer standing in the doorway of the train, blocking the exit, while the bomb's timer ticked behind him like a heartbeat, counting down to death. Hours 1 minutes 59 seconds. Hours 1 minutes 58 seconds. Hours 1 minutes 57 seconds. Marco couldn't breathe for a second. His throat tightened. His fingers clenched around the bomb bag. Liam remained frozen behind him. And the betrayer, the enemy, the man who had once been family, Antonio. Marco whispered, voice trembling, "I buried you in my heart the day you left us." Antonio stepped forward, calm, cold. "No, Marco. You buried me the day you chose power over blood." Marco flinched. Because Antonio wasn't wrong. Not entirely. But this wasn't the moment for old wounds. There was a bomb. There were civilians. There were seconds left. Marco's voice hardened. "Move!" "Now." Antonio shook his head slowly. "You still don't understand. Your time ends today." Liam grabbed Marco's arm. "Boss, we don't have time for this." Antonio raised a small black remote. Not a detonator. Something worse. A switch. Liam's eyes widened. "Boss, if he hits that." Marco tightened his grip on the bomb bag. "Antonio, don't." Antonio smiled, not cruel, but heartbreakingly sad. "You were my brother, Marco. But you forgot me. So now the world forgets you. The words hit harder than a punch. The heartbreak before the explosion. The train's doors began closing automatically. Passengers screamed. Officers on the platform rushed forward but froze when they saw the exposed wires hanging from Marco's bag. Announcements echoed over the speakers. Train 47A departing in 60 seconds. 60 seconds until the train moved. Maybe 60 seconds until it exploded. Marco's pulse roared in his ears. Antonio. Why? He demanded. Antonio's voice cracked. Because you left me to die, Marco. When that warehouse exploded. When our enemies attacked. You saved yourself. You didn't come back for me. Marco's chest tightened. I thought you were dead. You didn't even look, Antonio whispered. You didn't search for me. Liam did. The others did. But you, my own brother, you walked away. Marco stepped closer. The bag felt heavier. The timer beeped again. Hours, 1 minute, 20 seconds. Marco whispered. I searched for you every day. I lived with guilt every night. But I couldn't find a body. No trace. No sign. I thought you had been burned alive. Antonio's jaw clenched. Then you should have burned with me. His thumb hovered over the switch. Marco's heart pounded so hard it hurt. He took a deep breath. Antonio, listen to me. If you hit that, everyone on this train dies. Innocent people, children, families. They have nothing to do with us. Antonio's eyes flicked toward the passengers, panic in their faces, mothers shielding kids, old men clutching seats. For a moment, hesitation flickered. But betrayal, pain, hatred, they were stronger. I warned you once, Marco, Antonio said softly. Pain creates monsters. Marco whispered back, and family heals them. The last decision. The train lurched. It was starting to move. The platform began sliding backward slowly. Passengers screamed louder. Liam shouted over the noise, Boss, we have less than a minute. Antonio lifted the switch higher. It's over, Marco. Marco's instinct screamed at him to charge, tackle, fight. But then he saw something he had never expected. A tear, slipping down Antonio's cheek. And in that moment, Marco understood the truth. Antonio wasn't here because he wanted Marco dead. He was here because he wanted Marco to feel the same emptiness he had suffered. Loneliness, abandonment, pain. Marco whispered, voice breaking. I'm sorry. For everything. For leaving you. For failing you. I am sorry, brother. Antonio froze. The switch trembled in his hand. Marco stepped closer, slowly, carefully, until they were only a few feet apart. The train's movement grew faster. Marco extended his hand, unarmed. Open, peaceful. Come home, Antonio. Silence. Passengers crying. The platform moving away. The bomb beeping. Antonio's face twisted with emotion. You came for me too late, he whispered. Marco's heart shattered. But I still came, he said. Antonio shut his eyes. And in the final seconds, he dropped the switch. It clattered onto the floor. Antonio whispered, voice cracking, take the bomb. Save them. The pain in his voice was raw, broken, human. Marco nodded, tears filling his own eyes. We go together. Antonio shook his head. No. He stepped back. You save them. I can't face that world anymore. Marco reached for him, but Antonio stepped into the next train car and slammed the door shut. A lock clicked. Marco screamed, Antonio, don't do this. Antonio pressed his forehead to the glass. Goodbye, brother. The train shook. The timer blinked. Hours 14 seconds. Hours 13 seconds. Hours 12 seconds. Marco grabbed the bomb bag and sprinted toward the rear exit with Liam right behind him. The world tilted, bodies swayed, lights flickered. Jump, boss, Liam yelled. Marco tightened every muscle, ran to the open rear door, and leapt. He hit the platform hard, Liam landing beside him, rolling across the concrete, and the train sped forward with the bomb still in Marco's grip. Marco scrambled to his knees. Throw it, Liam yelled. The timer shrieked. Hours 4 seconds. Hours 3 seconds. Hours 2 seconds. Marco hurled the bomb off the platform. It soared through the air, falling, falling, falling. And then, a flash, a thunderous blast. Heat, light, smoke ripping upward like a monster from the earth. Marco shielded his face as the shockwave slammed into the station, rattling windows and making everyone gasp. Passengers screamed. Officers dropped to the ground, and the train kept speeding away into the distance. But one figure inside never came out. Antonio. Marco fell to his knees. His breath broke. His heart felt carved out. The world blurred. And in that trembling moment, Marco knew he had saved everyone, but he had lost the one man he wished he could save most. And as the smoke settled, and Marco stared into the distance where the train disappeared, he understood something. Betrayal doesn't always end with revenge. Sometimes it ends with heartbreak. But his story didn't end here, because someone else planned this. Someone else wanted him dead. Someone else wrote the warning on that torn bill. And Marco would find them, no matter how long it took. If you want the next story, then like, comment, and subscribe, because this story is only just beginning.